Hello friends and family and other denizens of the internet who have come to my channel. My name is Eric Rooms. I am the film score fanatic. Little behind the scenes for you here. This is my third time recording this today. I recorded one time and the battery ran out on me, so I had to stop and charge the battery and wait for that before I could continue. Then I started recording again and realized halfway through that I didn't have any light on. And so it looked different from the other video I had already shot. And so I recorded technically a third time, but I could still consider that part of like the second go. And that turns out, once I did all of that, I put all that video into my computer and it had no sound. I did all this talking about everything and nothing recorded sound because I didn't have the right little dongle to translate the mic sound into the camera. So that's great. We're gonna go with another go here, and maybe after all this will make me more succinct and better able to communicate what I have to communicate for a better product. Who knows? We'll find out. So let's just start with the main topic today. I wanted to do a review of The Current War, the new film that just released this weekend. The movie is directed by, of course my phone's gonna go slow now, Alfonso Gomez Rejon, and it was written by Michael Mitnick. And this is actually a movie that was slated to come out like 2 years ago, but it was a Weinstein production. And if you don't know, Harvey Weinstein is a terrible person, and that all came to light a couple of years ago, and a lot of things that had his name attached to it kind of just stopped their progress. But I'm happy that this is something that was able to be salvaged, I suppose. It's kind of weird when you think about it, and this is, you know, not a review-ish thing about the movie itself, but this is just about the industry in general. And anytime one of these controversies comes up, one person is involved in this movie and they do something terrible and they're a terrible person and we don't want to support them, but there's hundreds, if not thousands, of other people involved in creating that film that are then punished for that one person. So I'm happy that this is finding its release date finally. Not only for that, but also because it's a pretty good movie. It's an interesting topic, well executed. The acting is great, and let's go ahead and talk about the acting a little bit. There's the main star is obviously Benedict Cumberbatch. The main character as well is Thomas Edison. But some supporting characters are played by Tom Holland, plays his assistant. It's not a name that I recognize historically. His main rival is played by Michael Shannon, and that is George Westinghouse, which, if you're not familiar with that name, once upon a time, that was a huge, well-known name in America. He was an industrialist and had his hands in a lot of industry. Nowadays, you can go to a Best Buy and see a Westinghouse television or something like that. But it's not a very large household name anymore, probably because of what happened to his company at this time. Thomas Edison won the battle, the current war, so to speak. But getting back to other characters in the film that are famous historical figures, Nikola Tesla also plays a part. And he's played by Nicholas Hoult in this film. Quick side note on Nicholas Hoult: he has become he's getting close to that top tier of dependable prestige acting, where Benedict Cumberbatch, he's on that level. Michael Shannon is on that level, and Nicholas Hoult is if he isn't there yet, he's getting really close, because he pops up a lot in some really good stuff with really good performances. And then in addition to that, we also have, I believe it's Matthew McFadden is the actor's name. He plays J.P. Morgan, which is a name that you should all be familiar with, as that company, that brand still exists today. And he was one of the main financiers in that time, for these companies battling over power, over the electricity, the burgeoning electricity game. So the film is largely about the intrigue that was involved in that whole battle. Lots of propaganda and slander, and Thomas Edison was he goes down in history as a great man, and you should take nothing away from the things that he gave to humanity that have influenced technology for since then and on. It has been a great influence. I have a light on right now that would not exist without his technology. But he was also an a-hole, and pretty conniving and selfish and all that stuff. In the film, he is played as kind of the villain, but like any great villain, he doesn't think that he's the villain. He's trying to help humanity, and Benedict Cumberbatch plays that very well. There's a little bit with his accent that you can kind of hear his British accent coming through, like just slightly. He's pretty good at it right now, but that doesn't take you out of it at all. And I'm not complaining at all, because I couldn't do a great accent, and he's one of the best. But I did want to say that as an American, and maybe people overseas know all about Thomas Edison, I don't know, but as an American, we learn about that in school, and you already know what he looks like. Everyone knows what Thomas Edison looked like, and Benedict Cumberbatch himself is a very recognizable face, so everyone knows what he looks like. And you put them side by side, and you wouldn't really say that they look that much like each other, but during watching this movie, I did start to feel like I was like, I think he kind of looks like Thomas Edison. And in hindsight, I thought to myself, he doesn't, but I started to believe that he was, and that's a testament to his performance, that it stopped being Benedict Cumberbatch and it was Thomas Edison on the screen. So I recommend going and seeing that movie, especially if you're a fan of that kind of time period. I'm a big fan of that turn of the century, late 1800s, early 1900s, all the technology advances and things like that. I really find that interesting. So yeah, I definitely recommend that movie. I also wanted to talk about the score for a little bit. I really liked it a lot in this film. Oftentimes, a good indication to me, if I think it's a good score, in my opinion at least, is if I want to listen to it afterwards. I want to go back and hear that music again. And I did want to listen to it again after, and I did try to find it, but it's not available on Spotify or anything like that. Whoever owns the rights to that music hasn't done anything to release it as of yet, but the music was by, and here's who's credited, Danny Benzi, and Sonder Jurians are credited with the director's cut of the music, and then Volker Bertelmann and Dustin O'Halloran are also credited for the music. And I'm not sure what percentage of the contribution each of these 4 people had, but it could have something to do with the way the movie was produced 2 years ago and was probably ready for release, and they probably produced music for it, and then in the last 2 years they may have tried to retool some things. But I did notice in the movie there were some moments that seemed more orchestral and classical type film score, and some moments seemed maybe a little bit more modern, so maybe that's where some of that difference came in, but it worked in every moment, I felt, for that film. So if you like scores, I recommend checking that one out whenever you can find it, but otherwise, until then, you can hear that score in the film, which I recommend you see. So all right, next, earlier this week I saw Lucy in the Sky, which is a film that stars Natalie Portman. It's directed by Noah Hawley, who's most known for producing and show running, I believe, the Fargo television series on FX, as well as the Legion series on FX. I feel like he's one of the best up-and-comers. He's got a real talent for telling stories in an interesting way, and I think he told a pretty interesting story in this movie. It's he did a capable job to bring this story to life. I thought, watching the trailer, it seemed like that maybe there would be some kind of maybe, if not supernatural, but kind of metaphysical turn at some point in the story, because that's kind of what it seemed like in the trailer. And knowing Noah Hawley and some of the weird stuff he does on Legion and things like that, that was the impression I got. But 5 minutes into the movie, you see that it's inspired by true events, and that's when it occurred to me. My synapses fired, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember like 5, 6, 7 years ago. I don't know when it was, but." There was an astronaut who went off the rails and kind of went nuts for a little bit. But you may remember the story of this female astronaut who was having an affair with another astronaut man, who also was having another affair with a third astronaut lady. But it was like this weird love triangle thing that went awry, and this one kind of went off the Natalie Portman's character kind of went off the rails and attempted assault on. Well, I guess it's not attempted. She did assault the man after driving 20 hours across the country. Anyway, you can look up the story, but the movie, I think, was capably done. Natalie Portman's performance is pretty great, but we all know that she's going to do a great job. Her accent, I felt, was a little strange, of that kind of just ridiculous Southern accent. But I don't know. I've never seen video of the actual person. Maybe her accent's like that. So that, to me, was a little. I was kind of rolling my eyes at the thick accent the whole time, but. Beyond that, it was a pretty good movie. Dan Stevens stars in it as her husband, and he wasn't really included in the trailer very much, so that's shocking to me. He would be a big draw, but I guess the main storyline is around Natalie Portman and John Hamm's character, so they get the most of the limelight. But Zazie Beetz is in it as well, and she does a great job in her little side role. But it's one of those movies that shows some of that behind the scenes action of NASA training, day-to-day astronaut work, which is fascinating. And I guess that maybe says something about the movie quality itself, if that was the most interesting thing to me. It's just an okay movie for the most part, I think. Again, the score I thought was pretty interesting, but maybe not the best thing ever, because I can't even remember any of the notes at this time, so it didn't strike me that much. But I do know it was by Jeff Russo, who also works with Noah Hawley on basically everything. He's done the Legion scores and the Fargo scores. So for that reason alone, I think I may be misremembering. I might have to retract my statement. I think it probably did interest me in some way, but it's been 5 days since then, so I've kind of forgotten some. And I also already did this review a little bit ago, as I said, and it all got screwed up by my voice not being recorded. So that's my reviews of the new movies I've seen this week. Let's try and go through some other stuff real quick. I also did some rewatches this week of some films that I haven't seen probably in a decade, at least, if not more. And the first of that was Event Horizon. Quick rundown of what that movie is about, if you don't know. The Event Horizon is the name of a ship that was outfitted with a special engine that allows you to jump anywhere in the universe. It's basically like a wormhole engine that allows you to travel instantaneously to the other side of the universe. And in doing so, we messed with the laws of physics or whatever, and it didn't have the result that they wanted. Let's just put it that way. I don't want to spoil anything, but it is a pretty cool sci-fi horror movie. I was impressed by the brevity. It's only like an hour and a half long. And nowadays we've gotten so used to every movie has to be 2 to 2.5 hours long. Sometimes that's okay, sometimes we want that, but a lot of times we just want a little fun story that takes us somewhere else. The special effects are dated. It suffers from that for sure. But Sam Neill plays the main character, who's kind of a villain. He is the villain, but he also is kind of like the main character at the same time. Lawrence Fishburne is the hero, battling it out against him for most of the movie. But it's a pretty fun little horror movie. Not too much that like is really gonna disturb you if you're a sensitive viewer, but it's a cool concept, and I think that this is one that, like, with Hollywood wanting to remake everything under the sun, I think this is one that they should consider remaking with modern special effects, and maybe update some of the story a little bit so it's a little less such a thin motivation for Sam Neill. Kind of that's one of my criticisms of the film. But yeah, it's worth a rewatch. I would recommend a rewatch if you were interested in some horror like that. I also rewatched Candyman, which was a movie that I remember seeing when I was a teenager and thinking was like just one of the coolest horror movies ever made. It's a little cheesy now that I rewatch it. And it's a little more of a slasher, so if you don't like that, if you don't like that gore, blood and guts type stuff, you might want to avoid it. I would say it's somewhere in the middle. It's not like some of the ridiculous blood and guts stuff that we get today, but it has a cool conceit to it. That the idea of the story is that there's this man who was wronged a long time ago, and he was known as the Candyman, and if you say his name 5 times while looking in a mirror, he'll show up and terrible things will happen. It's one of those kind of haunting stories, or superstition stories. But it has some cool twists to it, and I think it was probably pretty dang cool for the time. Now it's a little cheesy, and that's another one that I think Hollywood could easily remake with maybe not even changing the script that much, just changing the acting talent and special effects and stuff like that. That would maybe be pretty cool. So that's a mild recommendation. I think it's okay. I probably won't rewatch it for a while now. But finally, I just wanted to mention a couple trailers I also saw in the theater this week while I was waiting for other movies to play that I thought were worth noting, and you should check them out. First off was a film called The Turning, which looks like a pretty creepy psychological thriller, but also probably some supernatural stuff involved. And that's what I like the most. I like those supernatural, but also like psychological thriller type scary movies. So check out that trailer. I also saw the trailer, or the newest trailer for the Kingsman, which is the prequel to the Kingsman movies, if you've seen those. And I believe it takes place during World War One. And you know, the Kingsmen society people are trying to affect the war behind the scenes. That's the basic plot. But I wanted to note that the music in that trailer was, to me, impressive, because it was using a modern popular song. In this case, it was War Pigs, which I believe was made popular by Black Sabbath, which is a great song. And they use that, you know, the vocals and like the exact song in the trailer, but then they also morph it into an orchestration that is based on that music. It's actually like made unique for this trailer. Well, I assume it's for this trailer. It could be in the movie for all we know, but I thought it was really well done as compared to the current trend that's been like, let's find some sad version of some old pop song and just stamp that on top of a trailer and that'll be good. The best example, and this is a good example of the usage, was the Avengers Age of Ultron trailer that had the Pinocchio music, which was all creepy and whatnot. Like, that was a good use of it, but now it's gotten to the point that like every trailer does the same exact thing. That it's becoming a bit too easy. I don't know what the word is. It's too much of a trend now, and not everyone does it well. So I just wanted to point that out. I'd recommend checking out that trailer and paying attention to the music as a good use of that concept. So, all right, I think that's everything I wanted to go over. I hope that was a little better, you know, organized, a little more succinct than it has been in the past. Maybe it helped that I got screwed over by recording and having everything mess up. Who knows? I guess we'll find out. I want to know from you, of the things that I talked about today. Have you seen them? Did you like them? Do you agree with any of my thoughts? Are you interested in seeing those movies? Any kind of feedback. Let's start a conversation. Tell me what's coming out that you want to see, that you think I should see and review. Yeah, just let's start a conversation in the comments. You can find me on social media. I'm on Twitter and Instagram as Sir Grooms, SIRGROOMS. I don't really use Twitter that much, other than to like say something to a famous person that I want to say something to. But I do use Instagram pretty regularly, and also you can find the channel Film Score Fanatic on Instagram, and I'm setting up a Facebook page, so there should be a Facebook page as well. And I can't remember if I don't think I used the in the Instagram, but it'll be the same logo as the channel, so you'll be able to recognize it by that. And yeah, I think that'll be it for today. Hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe and comment, but especially subscribe. I exponentially grew this week because I got like 3 new followers, subscribers. And when you only have like 10 subscribers and you get 3, that's a big jump. So yeah, I hope to see you next time, and have a good one.